Let's get to the battle now over the nation's money, and it's adding up right there. The debt crisis now playing out on Capitol Hill. Lawmakers still in big disagreement over the debt ceiling. August 2nd is the day the Treasury runs out of money to pay our bills, and right now the big issue is taxes. And the latest Fox News polling shows that 47% of Americans think our debt problem is a crisis. My next guest is accusing the president of, quote, phoning it in on the economy. Senator Ron Johnson, Republican from Wisconsin on the Senate Budget Committee. And, sir, welcome here to America's Newsroom. It's been a couple months since we have talked. What do you mean by that comment, phoning it in?
Well, good morning, Bill. Good morning. What I was thinking about when I made that comment was the business that I bought out of bankruptcy about 5 years ago. I was thinking about the previous owners, how incredibly hard they worked to keep that business afloat. And then I was thinking about my team over the last 5 years, how hard we've worked to make that business survive. Now, the good news, the business has survived. But then I come here to Washington, and I see this president submit a budget 2 months ago that was so unserious. It was going to add $13 trillion to our nation's $14.3 trillion debt. It was so unserious, it failed in the Senate 0 to 97. And it seems to me like the only concerted action this president has been taking on the whole deficit issue is to try and scare the markets, scare the public, when he should be trying to calm the markets by actually coming up with a credible spending plan. And currently the only action is, I think you mentioned it earlier, they've met 6 times. He sent his vice president to negotiate. Doesn't sound like the talks are moving very fast, but this is something the president should be fully engaged in. He ought to be working on this thing almost full time, because we are looking at the bankrupting of America here, and it's just way too serious an issue to delegate to other people.
Well, there's so much to get to here, and I just want to move along in the couple minutes we have, okay? So
Sure.
you don't believe he's serious. You've made that clear. And you also make it clear that how much can you get done in 6 meetings with this bipartisan committee with Joe Biden. Can I go back to the poll number that we put up a moment ago about the debt issue and how concerned Americans are? You see 47% say it's a major crisis, 42% say it's a major problem. That's 89%. Now, what are Republicans going to do on that debt ceiling, Senator? Because that's where this clash is coming.
Sure. You know, what our plan would be is to actually cut spending now for 2012 and 2013, establish caps, statutory caps that would put us on a glide path toward balancing the budget in about 10 years, and then pass a constitutional amendment that will limit spending or balance the budget. And that's, you know, in the end, I think that's the only thing that's going to solve this problem, is a constitutional limitation on the size of government. Because anything we put in statute, it might work for a few years, but let's face it, Congress has always figured out some way of weaseling its way around other types of spending limitations. So I really do believe we have got to put a constitutional limitation on our spending.
There are more people talking like that, and you know how much of a challenge that is to get done. Mm-hmm. You know the way the system is set up. It's not an easy thing to do. Now, this is Jay Carney at the White House briefing room yesterday talking about the future for America this year. Listen.
Obviously, we don't have a crystal ball here. But if you look at outside economic analysts, most still believe we will have steady economic growth in the second half of this year.
Now, what about that, Senator? He says it's going to get better. Do you believe it?
Well, we're not seeing it right now. I mean, we saw the jobs growth last month, incredibly disappointing. You know, so no, the other thing I think is highly irresponsible of this administration is to just assume that they're going to get an increase in that debt ceiling. I'm here. Washington is horribly broken. So that's why I sent a letter to the president a couple weeks ago, signed by 22 of my Senate colleagues, asking him to have a plan B just in case. You know, it wouldn't be the end of the world if we don't increase that debt ceiling immediately. We would have to live within our means. And our means, according to this president's own budget, would be $2.6 trillion. That's $800 billion more than we were spending just 10 years ago. It would pay for 100% of the interest on the debt, 100% of Social Security, and still leave $1.6 trillion for essential defense, security, safety, and health spending. So we should plan just in case. And I think it's irresponsible for this president not to do so.
You make an interesting argument. Former businessman, you've been in Congress a total of 5 months. And to hear your reaction this early in your term is stunning. But, Senator, thank you for your time. We'll speak again down the road. Ron Johnson out of Wisconsin.
Thanks for having me on.
Okay.